Prime time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
With Lloydminster following the rest of Saskatchewan when it comes to relaxing some COVID-19 restrictions starting May 4th, Jace Mackey spoke with Mayor Gerald Albers to learn more about the Saskatchewan plan to reopen and what it will mean for Lloydminster.
Last week, the City of Lloydminster announced that the entire city would be following Saskatchewan's guidelines to reopen the province, and I'm joined by Mayor Albers. Thanks for taking some time to talk with me today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we're going to talk about some of the phases and stuff. But first, I just wanted to talk about the kind of process the city went through to decide that they were going to follow the Saskatchewan plan.
So from the outset, we have been following the Saskatchewan state of emergency as the provincial through the Department of Health, or the Health Public Emergency, which led to our state of local emergency. So we had been in consultation with the government of Saskatchewan. They had been in consultation with us. We had been talking to Saskatchewan Health Authority here in the city, as well as city staff, and mainly city staff through our incident management team that has been overseeing the state of emergency, as well as other members of city administration. A report was brought forward that said to council to take a look at, to say that we see that the numbers are low. This is what Saskatchewan's looking at doing, and to keep the city as whole as possible. And this is the challenge that we have, because we try to be one city. Yes, we are on two provinces, but everything the city does, we try to apply municipal standards across the city. And it was felt by city council and in consultation with administration, this would be the best action to take forward to ensure that the city was kept whole, because you could appreciate how much difficulty we would have treating 1/3 of the city one way and 2/3 of the city the other way. When people live on the Saskatchewan side, work in Alberta, and vice versa, we have one city, and we could not establish a boundary one way or another, that we had to make a decision. And we felt that based on the information that was provided, based on the knowledge that each and every business will have to make their individual choice whether they open or not. No matter what the phases are, which we'll talk about, it's still up to the respective individual business owner, staff, and customers to keep that safety factor in mind for all three. And I know it's a tough decision for businesses, because I've heard from businesses asking why. Others have said, can we move forward? And if the rules are followed, they can, and we can go through that from this point on.
And you said you heard some businesses asking why. Were they asking why we were opening, or why maybe they weren't opening faster? What were the questions?
I've heard all the questions from businesses concerned about why they should open, or why was that permission being granted. Other businesses saying they felt their businesses should open sooner. We've run into all sorts of questions from people, and we're trying to answer those questions as quick as we can, and put some explanation to the reasoning behind. I know not everyone is exactly satisfied with the decision of even opening, and I do understand that, and that's why I'll say it again. It's up to individual business owners. If they feel that they can safely provide for their staff and their customers, they as long as they follow the outlined phases, they can open. If they don't feel safe that they can open their business safely and they want to protect their customers, that's their choice.
And so now let's starting to talk about some of these phases. So phase one, there's a few parts, but starting on May 4th, there's going to be some allowable businesses like medical services that opened. Can you just kind of go through some of the details of how this phased opening will occur?
So from what I understand, we're following the Saskatchewan model as it's been laid out, and it's quite extensive from the government of Saskatchewan, but it involves starting with dentistry, optometrists, chiropractors, and that group of medical professionals that are able to offer services to people. Because again, we've heard people are in distress, because unless it's an emergency and a dentist is able to pull your tooth in some cases, and I don't want to get too specific, but that's what I've understood from talking to various people. So now at the same time, the dentist has to ensure that he or she can maintain the proper safety protocols that they need to go through that step, as would the chiropractor, optometrist, and anyone else that's involved in that first round. Again, our bi-provincial nature will also challenge some professionals, I understand, due to the licensing of which province they're licensed in to operate. So it's not as clear cut as everybody would like it to be, one way or the other. It does allow, but it depends on where you're licensed as an individual.
And in that phase one, something that comes a little bit later on is the golf courses. And I understand that includes the Lloydminster Golf and Curling Club. So they're going to open. What kind of changes do you think are going to be coming when that course opens later on?
So the first way I'll explain that is if conditions permitting. So the golf course needs to be ready. So there is work being done currently, but we do not have an actual firm date of opening for May 15th yet, but we will advise the public once that's ready. What I understand, as an example of things that are outlined again, that the province of Saskatchewan has basically mandated, is one cart rider per cart. So if you're going golfing with someone else, you want to take carts, you will be one person per cart. You will not have a flag to remove because the pin will be raised, so you don't have to touch the flagpole. Things like that. So some very basic, just as we've been talking about, keeping a 2-meter distance from people, maintaining a social distance. And again, you would have your own clubs, not sharing clubs, ensuring that you sanitize your hands each and every opportunity that you have, and things like that. So it's just, those are the safety protocols that will be put in place and encouraged throughout the golfing season until the rules change in that perspective.
And I know also in phase one, campgrounds are going to be reopening in the province of Saskatchewan at a 50% capacity. So there'll be like spaces in between sites and stuff. I know that there was a restriction to Saskatchewan residents only. Do you know if residents of either side in Lloydminster are going to be able to go to campgrounds in Saskatchewan?
From the information I've received, no, not provincial campgrounds. From the perspective that Weaver Park is a campground in the municipality, we will be practicing social distancing there as well, leaving every second site open. But from the provincial information I've received to this point and looking at the Government of Saskatchewan announcement, it will be for Saskatchewan residents only. But again, I would encourage people to check the Saskatchewan government website and inquire with Parks Saskatchewan if they have any questions, because that is the authority that's responsible for those parks.
All right. And then finally, just before we go, why was it important to try and follow the Saskatchewan plan and try and get the city reopening?
Well, I think that from the perspective that the City Council looked at through the administration and the information they gathered, that we could open potentially and stay consistent with the health provider where the hospital is located, and we have looked to Saskatchewan Health Authority and the Government of Saskatchewan's protocols and all the information that's been brought forward to this point being the strictest. Their numbers were low, as reflected from what we've seen in the northern region of Saskatchewan Health Authority's reporting of COVID-19. So from that perspective, in the discussions, it was felt that we could, as a city, be treated as one, as we talked about earlier. And I think that's what the decision was from that perspective. We know that there's been a great deal of an economic hurt for people. We also understand COVID-19 is a true and present danger that we have to deal with. So by mitigating the risks and following all the procedures and the numbers that we've seen to this point reported through the northern region of Saskatchewan Health Authority, it was felt that we could start to reintroduce the economy back into our community, allow people to have that ability to procure other items outside the essential list that was first provided. I know there's people suffering with back pain. There's people suffering with work that needs to be done in the dentist. There's other people that would like to buy merchandise that they'd actually like to see before they bought it on the internet. So by doing the steps that are being laid out, namely phase one and phase two, it will give people the opportunity to return to some semblance of normal. And it's going to be a very long summer. I think I can tell people that from the perspective that the other phases that the Government of Saskatchewan has introduced are some time out. We have no time frame past phase two, which is the return of some more retail stores. So again, social distancing will be practiced. And I need to reinforce that one more time. It's so important that everything we've been doing to this point will continue to happen. You need to maintain social distancing, not gathering groups of more than 10. The province of Saskatchewan, through the health authority, has indicated that a family may actually get together now, but it's important that we keep our circles small and keep them consistent rather than mixing circles. So people can't be entertaining different people each and every night, even though it's only 2 or 4 people, because the chance of transmission increases. If you know your family in a couple homes in the city have not been affected by COVID and no one's showing any symptoms, it's reasonable to gather in that group, maybe once or twice a week, more than you have been in the past. But we do not want to see additional groups start to get duplicated over and over again. And that's what's so important, is people understand that, because we're still in a battle and it's not won, but we're trying to bring some semblance of normal back to people's lives, as well as, again, provide for their needs through being able to potentially work, or be an employee, be a business owner, or be it a consumer that you're trying to obtain some sort of goods.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me about this exciting news, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you, and thank you again for your coverage and relaying the information to people as best as you can. I know it's challenging from our perspective, it's challenging for you folks as well, but we appreciate the support.
Joined here with Becca from the SPCA, and as you can see, she has a whole litter of kittens beside her. Becca, tell me a little bit about this litter of kittens and how they came to the SPCA.
Yeah, they came with their mom. They were from around the Turtleford area, so they came in. They were quite little still, but yeah, now they're about almost 9 weeks old, and just waiting to become of weight for their surgeries, and they'll be ready to go.
And tell me a little bit about their personality. Do they have that typical kitten, very eccentric, very loud personality?
Yeah, they're crazy. Pretty good, great way to describe them. They all are, like, some of them like to be held and others are not very good with it. Like some of the black ones are quite cuddly, and the white one there, you know, he's not very cuddly. So I mean, they're all really starting to just come into their own sort of thing. But you know, they're kind of out of their kennel now, so they're stretching their legs a little bit. But yeah, typical kitten behaviors.
And even though they are still very young, how have they been around other cats, maybe a little bit older of cats, or around all the noises with the dogs barking as well?
They've been doing really well. It doesn't seem to affect them very much. You know, they're always hanging out with mom, so they probably feel pretty safe with mom right now. So I mean, I don't think they really have too much of an issue with anything crossing their path. I'm sure if a dog kind of went by them, they'd be a little bit spooked. But yeah, as of right now, nothing's really been bugging them.
And so how are you doing otherwise, number-wise, with cats and dogs? Do you still have quite a bit of dogs and cats with you right now, or are you kind of steadily calling off your waiting list and all that still?
Oh yeah, like I think last week we were able to make it through like 8 or 9 pages of our wait list. So we're quite low on our numbers. I think we maybe have like 7 cats up for adoption and 2 dogs. So we're doing really, really well for space. And like a lot of those people, you know, they kind of have either decided to keep the animals that they found, or again, like found their homes, or they, you know, they kind of went on their own sort of thing. But yeah, so it's been going really well, and we're really trucking through that waiting list really well right now.
Yeah, that sounds awesome that you're not completely full and you're able to call those waiting lists off. So how have you been doing with strays? Have the strays increased, or have you seen kind of just a steady, you know, not really anything coming in?
Yeah, we've been doing really well. Like we've had a couple dogs come in the other day, and then they've gone home. So we've been really lucky with our reclaims. So yeah, for the most part, like if a stray has been coming in, you know, majority of them have been going back to their original homes. So that's really nice.
And you're continuing to post on Facebook all of your adoptions. How has your adoptions been? Because you had so many several weeks ago. Are you still kind of in that steadily getting those numbers up and out?
Yeah, like last week we were able to do 11 adoptions, so that was really nice. And I mean, a majority of them were all our adult cats, some of our longest residents as well too. So that's been really nice. So I mean, it's really just a little bit of our stragglers.
And can you tell me just a little bit of, again, just remind everyone of the process that you're still going with adoptions?
Yeah, so we're still booking by appointment. You know, like we keep kind of watching the Saskatchewan slowly opening kind of thing too. And we're going to keep track of that and kind of go by that. But yeah, as of right now, we're still just booking by appointment, and just to kind of keep people from crossing each other and things like that. But yeah, so it's just booking by appointment right now.
And really quickly before we wrap up, since Saskatchewan has announced that they will be starting to reopen, as you just mentioned, does the SPCA have any plans in motion to when they're going to go back to full running, or are you going to stick with the way you're doing it, call by appointment, that sort of thing, for a little bit while longer?
Yeah, like I think right now we're really gonna stick with the booking by appointment for now. Just until, you know, like we're kind of out of the woods a little bit more too. So I mean, we are really we're keeping an eye on the Saskatchewan one, and like we have no real issues with it too. But yeah, just more or less still to keep, you know, safety precautions in place for right now. And then too, even when we do start opening up again, I think we're really just going to start looking at, you know, like limiting the amount of people coming in and not really, you know, letting a lot of visiting happening for the first little bit as well too.
All right, well, thank you so much, Becca, for joining me today, and hopefully this rambunctious litter of kittens will find their home very, very soon.
Yes, for sure. I'm sure they will.
Manage your waste and recyclables with Quick Pick Waste Disposal. 100% locally owned and proud to serve and support the communities we call home. Quick Pick, the convenient solution to avoid pollution.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
Well, joining me today, I'm very pleased to be joined with two math teachers from Holy Rosary High School, Wendy Oriole and Michelle Mercredi. So ladies, first off, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Now let's start with you, Wendy, just about, you know, when you found out that you weren't allowed to go back to school because of the COVID-19, how did you respond to that?
I think there was a lot of shock from all of us. Most of us never thought that school would ever get canceled. It's one of those things that seems to always be a staple in the world, and it was a pretty big surprise when we found out. So we jumped in right away. Our school division was pretty proactive in their approach to how we were going to handle this, and we were given a pretty clear direction on how we would go about giving support to the students. So then we had to figure out, specifically for math, what we were going to do to get them through the rest of this year, but also thinking about next year and how are we going to have them ready for those classes, and maybe how are we going to offer supports for next year.
Absolutely. And Michelle, you teach more that high school math of grades 10 to 11. Of course, you know, high school kids care about their percentage because it helps them get into those certain classes that ultimately help them get into university. What were some of the responses from those students in particular that, you know, were a little worried, or were they worried rather, about just the way that this year is going?
I would say that the response has been pretty good. We have a lot of students logging in online and doing the assignments and completing them. It's a bit different because we're dividing it up by class. So I'm teaching all of the Foundations 20s. I'm doing like the lessons, but then their own teachers marking their stuff. So they still have the ability to contact their own teacher and like get feedback and stuff like that. So it's been going pretty good. The kids are pretty interested.
Is this kind of for both of you, I guess, do you find this challenging to teach it this way as opposed to being with a student one-on-one personally? Because I definitely benefited from having a teacher with me, kind of at least being able to go to them fairly often. But so has this been a bit of a challenge for both of you?
I would say it's definitely a challenge. Just even the learning curve of how to put everything out there to the students and still try to make it authentic to them so that it feels like they're still getting the instruction from us that they were always getting. All of the math teachers in the school, I think, are using videos, and where we're delivering the lesson through video ahead of time that the kids can watch. But then we have the online portion twice a day where they can come on with us and we can offer them some support. A lot of times they can get one-on-one support if they come on at the right time. So we're still trying to get that available to them.
I guess one thing too is, were you both worried? I guess Michelle, will start with you. Were you worried about the response of, when knowing that students, the school year is technically done until the LCSD announced that April 1st was the first day of classes? Were you both worried that students may not respond fairly well in terms of wanting to go back to class?
I don't think that I particularly was worried. When we first sent out our Google Classrooms, we had tons of kids signing up for them right away that wanted to continue their learning. For me, I have just a few kids out of my classes that haven't signed up. And I think that goes across the whole school. Lots of kids want to continue their learning and need something to fill their time. And this does it.
And I guess just lastly for both of you, how much pride do you take in knowing that, those students still want to learn, but also you can still provide a great education to them? Obviously we don't know how long this pandemic will go on and when we can officially return back to schools, but just give us a sense of, before we wrap up here, how much pride you guys take in still teaching every day?
It's really exciting to see the kids continuing with their learning. Like Michelle said, we have a large number of students who are continuing on. I think it's a way for them to feel connected to other students and to the school. So, which shows that they have a lot of pride in our school. So that makes us feel really good. And it means that all the hard work that is going into it is benefiting them. So that makes us pretty excited about it.
All right. Well, I appreciate both of your time very much, and all the best to you down the road. And hopefully we can get you guys back into the schools teaching students, and just stay safe out there. So thank you.
Thanks, Connor.
The Canadian Cattlemen's Association is encouraging producers to look at their finances during COVID-19, which has caused problems across the industry. One of those relief plans is the Canadian Emergency Wage Subsidy.
This program provides partial reimbursement of wages paid to employees for up to 75% of their wage for businesses who have had a substantial decrease in revenues as a result of COVID-19. It pays to a maximum of $847 per week per employee, and there's no limit to the overall subsidy. Any farm and business with employees with a 15% reduction in revenues in March or a 30% reduction in April and May should qualify for this benefit. Businesses will need to attest that the revenue decline was related to COVID. And an example of revenue decline as a direct result could be the ability to sell fat cattle as a result of plant closures, or a decrease in sales price due to cattle market volatility. The Canadian Federation of Agriculture is currently having discussions with the Minister regarding how revenue decline would be determined in an agriculture context, so additional details should be coming.
Another option that provides relief for operations that employ multiple people is the Canadian Emergency Business Account.
This is a $40,000 loan available for qualifying businesses, and you apply through your bank. So any farm and business with employees that have a payroll greater than $25,000 or $20,000 and less than $1.5 million would qualify for this benefit. It's an interest-free loan up to $40,000 per business and eligible for up to 25% of the debt to be forgiven if paid back by December 31st, 2022.
One of the more important programs, according to Slingerland, is Agri Stability, which provides relief for producers who see significant losses over the year.
Agri Stability provides farm and businesses with a margin-based financial support in years when they experience significant losses from their operations. Farm and business whose current year program margin declines below 70% of their reference margin may be eligible for an Agri Stability payment. So to make it simple, let's picture a 400 cow ranch who has average calf sales of $580,000 for the past 5 years. He buys a little feed every year, buys some bulls, some replacement heifers, and if you take his allowable sales less allowable expenses, and some minor accrual adjustments, he's left with an historical reference margin of $357,000. Under the complex reference margin limit rules, his margin is ground down to $257,000. So his current year margin has to drop 30% below the $257,000 in order to start triggering a payment.
The CCA is encouraging producers to consult with their business advisor before looking at any relief options. Eric Bay, Primetime Local News.
Joining me today is the offensive coordinator for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Jason Moss. Jason, thanks for taking this time.
No problem. Thanks for having me, Evan.
Now, Jason, just a little tidbit here. Your alma mater is Oregon, and we just saw an Oregon quarterback get taken in the NFL draft here. Is there a little bit of maybe proudness from yourself towards your former school?
Yeah, I think anytime you see the Oregon Ducks doing well or guys getting drafted into the NFL, particularly that high of pick, you're excited for them and obviously excited to be a part of the U of O tradition.
Now, Jason, I guess jumping into yourself, taking the move over to Saskatchewan, have you guys actually moved yet, or are you still in Edmonton? How's that all taking part, especially with the coronavirus right now?
Well, the coronavirus has definitely put a change in plans, I guess, but we had planned on staying in Edmonton or Sherwood Park where we're living for the next couple of years. My contract in Sask is for a couple of years, but everyone knows that coaching profession is what it is. But right now we're in Sherwood Park, and we'll make the move down the road.
Now, how excited are you to have the crazy Saskatchewan fans behind you guys and working with your offense rather than against it this year?
I'm definitely excited. I think anytime you've played in Regina as a player or coached in there, you understand the environment that they're able to put out there and how exciting it is to be a part of Rider Nation now. Looking forward to it. Can't wait, obviously.
How much is that something that, maybe people don't realize how much it affects a football game?
Oh, it can definitely affect it. The ebbs and flows of a game, the momentum that you get on your side. The home crowd obviously makes it more difficult to operate an offense when you're playing in their stadium, and obviously now not having to deal with that is good, or great, I should say. But they definitely can get behind you and make it hard on opposing defenses or offenses.
Now, Jason, a couple key tools for you guys. Obviously, Cody Fajero, your guys' starting quarterback, will be huge, working with yourself closely. But as well, former Edmonton Eskimo Kenny Stafford will also be there. How nice will it be, I guess, just take me through your guys' offensive tools and, how you guys are really going to work with those.
Yeah, I mean, Cody, a bigger part of what we're going to do. He had such a great year last year. I've looked over all the film the coaches and I have, and we've tried to develop a system that's going to work for him and suit his strengths. But up front, you've got a great old line anchored by Dan Clark and Labatt and some young guys there. So, we got Willie P in the backfield. William Powell as a running back, one of the best in the league, if you ask me. He can do everything. Patrick Laval as a fullback. You got, Evans returning. You got Swerve coming back. So, you add to that mix some other good young receivers. McInnes coming into his second year, Linnaeus Diggy coming into his second year, Kenny Stafford you mentioned. So, we've got a lot of weapons to use. Williams Lambert's coming back as well. I'm excited about working with all these guys. And then some guys that I haven't been familiar with myself yet, just haven't coached them, but guys that they're excited about that were here last year and new guys that we're bringing in. So overall, I think as an offense, we're excited. We're going to get going whenever we get started and figure out what our strengths and weaknesses are and play to more of our strengths.
Now, Jason, switching over to offensive coordinator, is it going to be a little weird, going back to that role after formerly being a head coach?
No, not necessarily. I've been a part of the offense for the last 4 years, being in Edmonton as the head coach. No matter who the coordinator was, definitely working closely with them with game planning and calling plays. So it shouldn't be too big of a jump once again to get back into it. I am excited about it though, the opportunity to work in Saskatchewan with the coaching staff and the players that they do have, and obviously calling plays again and having to worry about nothing but offensive football is exciting.
Well, I know Riders Nation is happy to have you here, and thank you for taking this time and speaking with me.
No problem. Thank you.